What are the essential properties of consciousness? So according to integrated information theory, IIT of consciousness, essential properties or phenomenal, according to IIT, it's called phenomenological actions, are intrinsic existence, composition, information, integration, and exclusion. And I'm going to explain a bit about each of these. The first thing that Giulio Tononi identifies as the most essential aspects of the consciousness, which is true for all experience, is intrinsic existence. And the figure I'm going to show for the next couple of slides are taken from Ernst Mach's famous painting that he drew when he was in his study, and then extending his legs, and then supposedly trying to write or sketch what he sees or experiences from his left eye. And this part that is occluded is presumably reflecting the nose and also cheek and things like that. But if you really be careful about what you are experiencing without moving eyes, I don't think this is a really accurate kind of depiction. But anyway, this is sort of trying to capture what it's like to experience the world from the first person point of view. And then Tononi uses this figure in many ways to explain these 5 actions. So intrinsic existence. According to Scalapedia excerpts, consciousness exists. Each experience is actual. Indeed, that my experience here and now exists. It is real. It is the only fact that I can be sure of immediately and absolutely. And this is kind of similar to the statement that you might have heard, Descartes' cogito ergo sum. And indeed, it is essentially the same thing. If you are experiencing, if you are, in whatever situation, either in auditory, dreaming kind of experience, or hallucinatory experience, or under the drug or under the normal situation or whatever, when you are experiencing, it is here and now, including a memory. Remembering the memory now exists, right? And then outside the world can be existing, but you can never be sure if you're in a dreaming experience and so on. So it is a reasonable kind of hypothesis, but what is more fundamentally sure for you is the fact that you are experiencing things immediately and absolutely. That's the intrinsic existence. It is existing inside of you, in a sense. That's intrinsic part. And then moreover, my experience exists from its own intrinsic perspective, independent of external observers. It is intrinsically real or actual. So whether somebody observes you or not doesn't matter, as long as you are conscious, no matter what you're in a locked-in syndrome or potentially newborn babies. You yourself are experiencing things from that perspective. Second, composition. Consciousness is structured. Each experience is composed of multiple phenomenological distinctions, elementary or higher order. So in this left side figures, if you are wearing the blue suit, then blue suit is composed of the blueness itself, and then on the left side there may be a blue book, and then this book is on the left side. So book left and blue book, all of them are there, and then phenomenological distinction corresponds to this terminology like blue or book or left and so on. And it can be one level like blueness or left or book, but it can be also in higher order, combination of the blue and the book and so on. And for example, within one experience, I may distinguish a book, a blue color, a blue book, the left side, a blue book on the left, and so on. Now, the third one, information. Consciousness is specific. Each experience is a particular way it is, being composed of a specific set of specific phenomenal distinctions, thereby differing from other possible experiences. And it is related to the concept of the differentiation. So for example, if you are experiencing your body extending to in front of you with bookshelves on the left side, then it is very different types of experience that you could have in the not outside the scene or seeing the flower or something else. There are many possible different kind of frames of the movies out there, and then each time you experience one thing, it excludes all the other possibilities, and that is the way that here, thereby differing from other possible experiences. It is different from anything else. And to give a sort of the intuitive understanding of this, so often this thought experiment has been invoked. In the case of the single photodiode, which detects the light and then passes the electrical electricity, it is either two states, on or off. And then single neuron is also potentially on or off, firing on or off. But in the case of the neurons in the brain, we have 86 billion neurons in the brain, and roughly 10 to the 11. And then that means that if one neuron corresponds to 1 bit, then it's a 10 to the 11 bits, meaning that there can be a combination or a pattern of the brain states that is different from each other. And the number of the different patterns we can have as a brain as a whole could be 10 to the 11. It's really a huge amount of possibility. And if one experience corresponds to one state of the brain, then other state of the brain may correspond to all other possible experiences that we can have. And that is choosing one out of many, this 10 to the 11 potentially, kind of states. That's the idea. And so, any kind of a simple system, such as a single photodiode or just a single neuron, which can take only one or two states, cannot have, sustain a differentiability or informativeness. And that has an implication to what IIT predicts about the consciousness of this simple system. All right, now fourth action, integration. So consciousness is unified. Each experience is irreducible to non-independent, non-interdependent, disjoint subsets of phenomenal distinctions. So for example, on the left side, when you see a phenomenon, some kind of visual scene from your perspective, you cannot experience the left side and right side by will in a separate or independent things. So thus I experience a whole visual scene, not the left side of the visual field, independent of the right side, and vice versa. You just can't selectively experience one thing but not the other. It always comes as a one thing together, coherently, integrated manner. And to make this point, one thought experiment that is also often invoked is this in digital camera situation versus human brain situation. So digital camera can have, right now you may not see this type of the camera anymore, but even the iPhone and so on can have a huge number of the pixels, and each pixel can be considered as on/off. So it can be like 10 to the 11 bits of the pixels. That's not that difficult to construct. And then you might say that, oh, in terms of information, it can be comparable or similar or even better than the human brain. But what is quite different between human brain and these digital camera kind of stuff is that on the one hand, neurons are always connected to the other ones, and it's roughly expected to be 1,000 to 10,000 neurons are connected to each other. And then digital camera doesn't have that kind of connectivity. And if there is, and then if one pixel says that, oh, there's a darkness here, and then surrounding one says, no, it must be bright. It can be used to make it a very efficient and wise kind of camera. But if you start to construct something like that, then it starts to move spontaneously and also have some kind of function that beats the original idea of the digital camera, which is to, in a sense, represent or capture what is out there faithfully through the wavelengths and then record it as it is. So interpretation or adding meanings is not the one not the kind of function that is desired for this type of things. So in that sense, it's very different from the integrated system of the brains versus non-integrated systems of the cameras. Okay, anyway, to move on, exclusion. So exclusion says consciousness is definite in content and the spatial-temporal grain. Each experience has a set of phenomenal distinctions it has, neither less or more. And it flows at the speed it flows, neither faster nor slower. It's a bit difficult compared to others, but what it means is that let's say if you are experiences this blue bounded, the experience that we had before, you cannot have less experience, which is devoid of the color, black and white version of the same thing here, or more of that, which is the ones that are supposedly non-conscious kind of experience, which is like a blood pressure of certain part of the brain and so on, which you cannot actually become conscious of, or any other thing. So that is that it means that that's what I meant by this superset. And so same goes with the time and also space, but time-wise, it's much easier to understand. In the case of internet or computer, for example, you can measure the the flow of the information at seconds or minute or hour, whatever, what kind of unit you choose, it doesn't matter. But speaking of consciousness, it is always flowing at certain speed. It can be faster or slower at each time, but it's not that important for now. We just can't experience much faster grain of the experience, or much slower, like let's say hour of experience, or milliseconds of experience. Many of the psychophysics experience also shows roughly our temporal experience extends on the order of 100 milliseconds and so on. And why this is the case, we don't know, but other faster or slower experience is also excluded. In terms of contents, less experience, like black and white, we can't experience, and more experience, we can't experience. Speed-wise, too fast, too slow, we can't experience. It's always one definite, level of the experience. So after proposing these 5 sets of the phenomenological axioms, what IIT tries to do, this is a very rough sketch, is that first to propose that the large quantity of integrated information corresponds to a high level of consciousness. So if you are conscious, then you should have high integrated information. Second, a largest cluster of integrated information, which is related to the locus of consciousness. So if frontal areas are not really related to consciousness, then largest clusters of the integrated information has to have, happen somewhere else. Same for the cerebellum. And then distinct quality or pattern or structure of integrated information corresponds to each experience, or quale or qualia. Contents of consciousness. So whatever it is a pattern of something that defines each experience in some way. So in summary, IIT starts from 5 phenomenological axioms, and then IIT proposes physical mechanisms that can support the essential properties of consciousness. And IIT tries to quantify, delineate, and specify consciousness. Okay, so what does IIT explain in the end? And also, how can we test this theory? That's the next. That's answered in the next video.